Hello and welcome to Ode to Games. I'm Kevin Van joined alongside Logan Plant. How you doing, Logan?
I'm doing well, Kevin. Big day, big release day.
That we do. Before we get into that, Zach Ross is also here. How you doing, Zach?
Doing pretty good. I'm not a part of the big release, but that's fine.
Well, we'll
Not
have
yet.
we'll have more thoughts on that next week.
Yep.
So, Super Mario 3D World Plus Bowser's Fury is out, and me and Logan have played it. Zach will be a little bit later to that, but next week we'll have thoughts on Super Mario 3D World, the base game. Hopefully, the online doesn't freak out. We can actually play this thing online.
More on that later. Too.
Yeah. Some other thoughts on Switch Online moments. But yeah, we'll have some thoughts on the main game on next week's show. But for now, Bowser's Fury. I have gotten 50 of the shine. What are they called? Cat medals?
Cat shines.
Shines? Okay. So I've gotten 50 of the shines. And Logan, what you're at? 15?
15. Yep.
15, nice. What are your early thoughts of Bowser's Fury, Logan?
I am a big fan of it. I think it is obviously Super Mario Odyssey DLC, which is
Yeah.
what it looked like, and it just absolutely is. Even the small details, like the sound effect it
Yeah.
plays when you open the map, is Super Mario Odyssey. Just everything about it. When you pause, it's Super Mario Odyssey.
Even
The
like what
animation he does when he grabs a shine is the same one when he grabs a moon. In
Mario
Odyssey.
sounds the
It's
same
just,
too from
yeah,
Odyssey.
uh-huh.
Like his sound effects and how he like walks and
Yeah.
all that stuff. That sounds exactly the same as Odyssey.
But the art style is 3D World, which is
Hmm.
really cool because it's really a mix of these two. It's like Odyssey got 3D World DLC plus a little sunshine plus a little everything. It's got a little bit of
Yeah.
everything from the 3D Mario catalog in here, which is really cool. I like how so basically it's set up in all these different areas, right? There's these lighthouses, and to complete each micro area, like these are really small little challenge areas. You have to get
Yeah.
five.
Only five shines per area.
Mhm. And four of them, one of them is just like get to the lighthouse, and then three of them are other challenges that pop up, and then one of them is find the five cat medals, which is equivalent to red coins from Super Mario
Yeah.
64. And it's just so cool how each one of these has all these little tiny challenges that makes it feel like a whole 64 level just shrunk down to be absolutely bite-sized. So I'm really liking the format of it. I've 100%ed three of these little tiny micro lighthouse areas so far, and I've enjoyed all three of them.
Yeah, and I've been impressed with how they've been able to keep these areas fresh as you're going along. While the other concern is that with only five shines per area, that they can be either a little bit samey or forgettable. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that's the case. They do a pretty good job of making each one feel distinct. It introduces new things at each area. And what that also means is that none of the like different gameplay styles really wear out their welcome. You do it for like maybe two of the shines, and then you're moving on to something else, and they throw a new mechanic at you. And that's been really fun to keep it fresh throughout. Playing through half of it as I'm up to the 50 shines now.
Yeah, and we were talking about this before the show, Kev. I'm surprised at how much it does feel like a 3D Mario, and the fact that like you think about Sunshine, you think about Galaxy, and 64 all do this. You return to a level and something is different. You go back in and there's new enemies, or there's a new little area that's unlocked, or there's a new switch to hit that does something unique. And this has that in these tiny areas. You leave and you go find a shine somewhere else, and you come back and this little text pops up on your screen that's like, oh, defeat the evil magic Koopas.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just there and they weren't there before. And you get a shine when you complete it. And that's super cool because it's almost as if it has the same feeling as jumping back into a Super Mario 64 level after you found a star there and you go in for another one.
Yeah, I really liked one of the early areas where you go in the first time, and there's not too many enemies. It's pretty easy to go through. It's one of the early areas. And when you go back, they kind of fill it up with bullet bills. And so you're trying to do all the platforming segments that you did before, but they're throwing bullet bills at you. It is cool how not only do you unlock new areas to go explore, but if you left some of the other stuff to still do at these earlier areas, it feels fresh again going back to these micro areas.
And then the other thing that feels fresh is it changes when Bowser shows up too,
Mm-hmm.
which is really cool. I really like that element that it starts to rain, and you know in about 15 seconds he's gonna pop out of the water and just start raining terror on the world. It's just a really cool effect. The music, I think the music in the entire game is awesome. I think the music in the areas is really good. It has a lot of strings, which it sounds like the Origami King soundtrack at times, which I think is a really good soundtrack. One of the high points of that game.
There's also a section that is basically ripped from Odyssey.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
You'll know it as soon as you get to the area. We're just like, is this exactly the same? It's like, no, I think it's slightly different, but
That's cool.
They take one of the themes from Odyssey and just slap it right in there.
Yeah, but the music's good, and then it turns into this just like heavy metal when Bowser shows up, and it's really cool. And there's like this choir that's singing in the background to parts of it that's really epic, and there's just fire falling everywhere. And he doesn't overstay his welcome, which I think is something I was worried about, is that these sessions were going to be too long when he rolled in, but it's pretty easy to get him to go back in the water and have the world return to normal.
Yeah, you've got a couple of options with that. He'll leave if you collect any of the shines. He'll just go right away. And usually that happens a lot because one of the shines at each area is to have him blow up one of the Bowser blocks. So odds are you'll be doing that, and then as soon as you collect it, he'll go away. But if you're not doing that, then he'll also leave after, I think, only 2 cycles of his like attacks. He'll leave again. So yeah, it does not overstay its welcome. I was also worried about that, but he's not there too long, and it gives you enough time in between when he comes back to do other things, and then when he comes in, then you're either going to get the Bowser blocks or something else like that.
Which is also cool. It's really fun to there's these blocks that only his flames can destroy, and it's really cool when you're just exploring this area to just make a little mental bookmark of where those blocks are. So when Bowser rolls in, you can just sprint over there as Mario to get him to destroy those blocks, to grab there's usually a cat shine behind them. Yeah. I think so far every area has one shine that's the Bowser block.
Yeah. And if I have one like little complaint, it's nothing too big, but you know, you go to all these different areas, and one of the shines is always the Bowser blocks, and then one of the shines is always the collect the 5 medals, and then there are a couple of other repeat ones throughout. They're
and
not
one of
as
them's
often.
Always just like get to the lighthouse, also just like get to the end of the area.
But with that, I feel like because the platforming is a lot different in these areas, that can kind of still feel fresh. It's not a big problem, and I think considering that this is just basically a side mode with Super Mario 3D World, I got the 50 shines in about 2.5 hours. It's not that big of a deal. If this was a mainline game with that, I think I'd have a bigger issue with it. But the way the Bowser's Fury is right now, it's just like a kind of a minor thing.
Yeah. The variety I have noticed there is some repeats, but I don't really mind because the areas are so short that it doesn't feel like you're doing the same thing over and over, at least not yet. So yeah, I really like it. I think it's a really cool add-on. 3D World is still the main course. Like Kevin just said, he got 50 in 2.5 hours. And yeah, I can tell that it's not that huge in scope, but if you have an Odyssey craving, this will scratch it, I think, for sure.
Yeah, and just nice that they didn't have to put this in there. They didn't have to make this. They could have just re-released Super Mario 3D World and slapped a $60 price tag on it, and people would have bought it anyways. But I appreciated that they decided, hey, let's put in something different, and I think that gave them the opportunity to do some weird things. You know, you've got this Giga Bowser and just like all the ink everywhere.
He's
throwbacks
so
to
cool.
Sunshine. I feel like because it's this little side mode, it's like they had a little bit more leeway to do some crazier things. And I will say that some of the last sections of the main story, as like you finish the main campaign, and then of course there's more stuff to do after that. But when you get to the end of the main campaign, there's some really cool moments in some of the last like boss fights and things that I don't want to spoil. But there's some pretty cool moments there too.
Yeah, I'm excited to get there. I'm sure I'll have that beat in the next like day.
Oh, for
like,
sure.
So
it's not long, and I imagine that if you can get the first 50 shines in 2.5 hours, you'll probably get 100% within 5-6 hours pretty easily.
Is there anything special for getting 100%, or is it just self-proclaimed achievement?
I don't know. I haven't looked it
It's
up
fun.
yet, but I mean, it's a good time.
It's a good time.
Maybe there'll be a little thing. Hopefully, they do give you something, some little. Easter
Was there
egg.
something in Odyssey for getting 100% of the moons?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there is. Yeah,
Okay.
there's a little thing that happens if you get all of them.
Get like a card or something.
Yeah, it's like something from Pauline, I think, if you get literally everything. Oh, wait, no, I know what it is. Spoiler alert, if you're going for every single moon in Odyssey, and if you are, you're a madman. because,
Brutal.
yeah.
Not me.
Actually, no, I'm not even going to say it. I'm not even going to say it because it's a spoiler if you haven't even finished the main game. So scratch that.
Okay.
no spoiler.
Especially since
there.
I plan on playing that game sometime this
Yeah.
year for the first time. It's probably not a good idea.
Yeah, Zach. Yeah,
But
that would be.
yeah, something
spoiler for you.
happens.
Yeah, but yeah, Bowser's Fury is a really good time.
Yeah, it's good.
And just having it added on to an already good game in Mario 3D World is just icing on the cake, and it's totally worth the $60 price tag if you're playing both of these, but for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm so super excited to dive into 3D World. I haven't done it yet. I'm really excited to see how the faster characters feel because they sped them up significantly from the original, and I think it's just going to make it a lot more fluid feeling in the platforming. So
I do hope we feel that speed on the online mode.
I hope so too.
Slow things down.
Hopefully.
Yeah, we'll have some updated thoughts next week on the game. Hopefully, if the online plays with us pretty well. But yeah, I'm looking forward to sitting down and playing the main game with you guys. That should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, Bowser Jr.
Have we decided on which
didn't even
characters we
mention
are?
him.
Did we did decide
Yeah.
characters? I'm P.
Kevin's
I'm
Peach. Zach is the
Luigi.
Luigi, and I'm gonna be Mario or
Yes.
Toad. I don't know yet. Because in my other playthrough, I'm gonna be Mario. So we'll see who I am. And I think I'll go Toad.
Does it
I'll
matter?
probably have to-
Does it make a difference? They
Toad,
do
I think
anything
Toad's the
special?
worst in my opinion.
Is he just the
His
hard
jump-
mode, huh?
His jump is so
the Nesbit?
short compared to everyone else's jump.
Hmm.
So he's just a lot harder for a lot of the levels.
Yeah.
Peach is the slowest, but it doesn't really matter. Luigi's a little slippery. I think that the biggest drawback is Toad. Toad's low jump.
Okay.
Kill him.
Maybe I'll do it. Just
You just-
Just
that
you played
added
the game enough
challenge.
times, you should be able to deal with it, right?
yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned Bowser Jr. He is there.
Yep.
Did you set him to a little or none? for
None.
help?
I said him to help. None.
I just wanted
Did
to
you
see
have
what
him
it
on
was
a
like.
little?
I had it on a little because I was just like, oh, what is this gonna do? And he'll attack an enemy every once in a while. I was like, okay, cool, thanks, man.
Oh, that's it. I thought
mean,
that
that's
if you had him on
pretty
a
much it.
little, so there's these like question marks on the wall that you have to like send him to paint over, and you get a power up. And then, did we mention that you can store power ups? I don't think we did on the show. I
No.
think we were just talking about that.
You
before.
can up to 5 of each type.
Yeah, and you can just switch what you want. Like Bowser Jr. basically carries your power ups, and you can just switch, and then he'll toss it to you, and your other one goes back into the bank, and that's super cool.
Yeah,
That's
you can,
really cool for an open area game like this to be able to just equip whatever you need immediately.
Yeah, be able to change up the strategy for different platforming segments, whatever works best. If you want the cat suit, or you want the Tanuki suit, or something like that. So what did you think Bowser Jr. was gonna do?
I thought he was going to go to paint those walls on his own, and
No.
like I wouldn't have to find the secrets myself. But he just whacks an enemy with his paintbrush every so often.
Pretty much, yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, maybe if you
Is there
put
an
it on-
ability to set him to more than
Yeah,
a
there's
little?
lot.
Yes,
You
there's
can
a lot.
have-
So
you can
maybe-
have a lot.
maybe
a lot.
in,
Okay.
maybe in that situation he would do that, but in the one that I picked, all he does is just attack enemies every once in a while. And I was like, all right,
But it
cool.
does seem like if you're like a parent with a young kid, it seems like that's a really cool two-player mode, like controlling the Luma in Mario Galaxy 2.
Yeah,
Or things like that, or Cappy in Odyssey. Just having a smaller role for a younger player to do is a really cool option that's thrown in there, especially since 3D World is such a multiplayer focused game. To make sure they had something like that in the side mode, I thought was really, really smart move.
yeah. But it's not intrusive if you're playing it single player. You can turn him off completely, or just have him roll in. There he is. If you're watching the video
There he is.
version. But yeah, he's there.
Yep,
He's there.
he is there.
And that means that there's a bunch of callbacks to Super Mario Sunshine with how he works, bringing the paintbrush
Instantly.
back. Yeah.
There's a callback instantly,
Yeah.
and I was like, That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't say what it is, but right away there's a Sunshine
Does that mean I
reference.
have to play Sunshine before Bowser's Fury?
Yeah, because then you won't
Oh.
understand the story at all.
Understand to fully
You
grasp.
just, the
Yeah,
lore
exactly.
Is so deep.
It's really deep.
Dang it.
Yeah.
You've got to figure it out. Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, we'll definitely have more thoughts on both Bowser's Fury by next week, as well as the main game of Super Mario 3D World. But if we want to
Wrap up by saying we'll go to the news after this. Just want to wrap up by saying I'm so happy this game is on Switch. You guys know this is my favorite Wii U game, and it has just taken so dang long to make the move over. I think I can't believe it's really the last big Wii U port
4
that
years
was left. Yeah, so I'm just really happy this is out, and a whole new audience of 80 million people who own these machines are going to be able to go out and buy this game.
Yeah.
It's great.
it's a good time.
Bowser's Fury is great. Like I think
Yeah.
I think it's a great add-on.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah, let's get into the news now. We'll start with some Sonic news. Not the game, but the movie franchise is getting more news these days, and that is the big title reveal for the Sonic the Hedgehog movie sequel. It's going to be called Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Whoa.
What a
Shocker.
reveal.
Oh my
not
God. We also got a
expecting that.
release date, right?
Yes, we did get a release date. It's coming out in 2022. I'm forgetting the date off the top of my head
April
right now.
4th, April 22nd, something like that. April something.
Yeah, it is coming in April of 2022. So just 2 years. April 8th, 2022.
I wasn't even
so
close.
Little over a year away. We're nearing the 1 year anniversary of the Sonic movie. On
That's
Valentine's Day. This
What
week.
day in February did that come out last year?
Valentine's Day. February
Oh,
14th.
we are very close.
Yeah.
All right. Yep. Good point.
Yeah.
A movie that Logan and I saw in theaters together. The last thing we ever saw in theaters.
That's not even true. We saw the My Hero Academia movie in theaters after that.
Oh my God. When did we watch that?
On my birthday on the 26th.
Arch?
And then the world
Oh,
went
wow.
to all hell right after that.
That was the last thing.
February was a big month for movies.
Yeah.
This is coming
So-
hot off the heels of the Sonic Prime announcement.
It is.
There's a lot of
lots
Sonic media
stuff.
coming in the future.
Not games, though.
And the logo for this
Oh,
really
absolutely
teases
not.
Tails. The 2 is yellow, and then at the end, the bottom of the 2, it's Tails, 2 tails coming out. And then the music used in this 10-second teaser that was released on Twitter was from Emerald Hill Zone, which is the first zone of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on Genesis. So yeah, some clutch references. That's it. It was just a logo and title
Yep.
reveal and a
Not
release
much
date,
more.
but I think we all enjoyed the first Sonic movie quite a bit. So I'm excited.
Yeah,
to see
absolutely.
Where it goes.
Yeah, hopefully they can hold it together for a sequel. Sometimes,
Yeah.
I mean, video game movies not even withstanding here, just sequels to movies sometimes fall apart. So hopefully they can keep this one going for the second one.
Yeah, there's
bringing
the
Tails
first
in.
one left off. Eggman is stranded on a different planet. And
By Christmas.
Tails rolls in. And that's it. I wonder if like James Marsden's gonna be in the sequel, because I could see the sequel being like a romp through a bunch of different zones, like throughout the Sonic history of the games, and it'd be weird to be bringing some random human character along for that. But I did really like him in the first movie, so so I'd be kind of fine.
I thought he was
think
great.
I'd be fine either way, but I am interested to see if this is more of a Sonic movie, because I think my main complaint with the Sonic movie was it was like any animated kids movie with some really good Sonic references, but it didn't really feel like a Sonic movie, I think is what we kind of talked about.
Yeah, I think that being set more in Sonic's world would help a lot with that. Just actually being in all the different zones and things would probably make it feel wholly like a Sonic movie completely.
Yeah, absolutely. So a year away from Sonic 2. It's one of the last movies that anyone saw in theaters.
Yeah,
I saw when this was announced, everyone was like, "Man, that was the last movie we saw."
Yeah, the joke being that, it's the last movie that we see before everything happened, and then the first movie that we see
first
after
movie,
everything comes back.
Yeah, that very well could be the first movie you go to in a theater. Sonic 2, April 2022. Or the Uncharted movie. Because that's
It's
gonna
2022
keep
now?
getting
Yeah, they pushed that back.
Yeah, they did.
They did. I don't think there's a definitive release date, as far as I know.
I don't think they can ever get a definitive
April 8th,
release
maybe?
date
Who
on
knows?
anything. Like, I don't think it's just gonna come out. Like, They can't put an actual date on that.
Yeah. Something else got an actual date, though, this week. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is coming to PS5 on June 11th. Insomniac reiterated it is a PS5 exclusive. It's not a cross-gen title with PlayStation 4. They announced a couple pre-order bonuses, yada, 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 the box art. But yeah, June 11th, $70, which I think we expected. But
not surprised.
It just stings. It still stings me.
Again, like Ratchet and Clank, it looks good from what they've shown. The Rift mechanic and all that looks really cool. But as someone who has played the series very sparingly, just a little bit of the remake they did of the first one a couple years back.
You played some of that? I didn't even know.
I did, yeah, because it was out on PS Plus, and so I booted it up and played it for a couple of hours, and it was fun. It was a good time. But as someone who's not attached to the Ratchet and Clank series in any way, I'm not picking it up for $70. I'm just not. Like, that's a game that I would wait for a price drop down to like $40 or $30-$40, you know. And I feel like with that $70 price tag, a lot of people will be put in a similar position where if they're not attached to a series, the odds of them taking a flyer on something like that just decreases significantly the more money you add on. But the game still looks good, you know. I'll play it eventually.
I still have not bought a $70 title. I've had the PS5 for 3 months. As of the day, came out 3 months ago today, and I still have not purchased a $70 game. So
what do you think your first one's going to be?
Wonder what I was going to say. What game could possibly force you to pay that $70 price tag?
I mean, I think I'm going to play Horizon.
Uncharted 5.
Yeah, I would think Horizon.
Yeah, but is Horizon 70 even if it's
cross-gen game?
Possibly, yeah. Or maybe they'll do like the last gen is 60 and the current gen is 70. Some games are like that.
It's gross.
Yeah. And we'll see. So, but that could be one. I'll just buy the PS4 version and get the free upgrade to the PS5 version.
Yeah. Save the extra $10.
Yeah. But Ratchet and Clank coming out. I'm curious to see how this sells because I know it's a popular franchise and has a lot of fans, but cartoony games like this also just people think their value is less, which I don't know how I don't agree with that. Like people will be way more likely to pay $70 for a God of War than for this, or a Horizon than this. And I don't know if that's necessarily right. Like Crash 4, we saw it did 40s, not sell very well, and it was
games like Crash and Spyro. In my head, they seem like $40 titles in terms of PS4. I guess $50 for PS5. I don't know when that got embedded in my head, and now that you mention it, it really shouldn't be 40, like that.
Right?
I think
the trilogies were 40, but they were remakes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like a brand new.
But those are 3
Crash
games.
or a brand new Spyro. Yeah, like 3 games.
I appreciate
from the ground up $40.
I appreciate that those games were $40. Like that was a great price. But at the same time, I think that also kind of skewed what people thought the value of those games were because they take a look at the trilogy and they're like, oh, that thing retailed at launch for $40 for 3 games. And you're telling me that this next game is $60, $20 more for just 1 game. And on the surface, that doesn't make any sense. Like, obviously it's a newer game, but I think for a lot of people, you just see that on the outside and you're like, yeah, I'm not getting that for $60.
It's a game that took a lot more work to create than just refreshing the old ones.
Yeah.
Which, it makes sense. I get why they priced it at 60. I also get why people feel like that's not quite where they should be. I get both sides. I guess I land on the side that feels like it shouldn't be 60 because I'm interested in Crash 4, but haven't picked it up.
Same.
I think it would have sold significantly better as a $40 title.
I probably would have it if it was a $40 title.
It's a very similar situation with me and Ratchet and Clank. You know, I like the series. I've liked it for a long time, but I would never pay $70 for a Ratchet and Clank game. I would for a Sly Cooper, Jack and Daxter, but never for Ratchet and Clank.
Like you have to be attached to the series. Really attached to the series. If you're not, you're just not. You're not picking it up for $70.
Yeah, I don't think we know enough yet about how $70 games do to know if this is going to stick around. I feel like if Sony sees them not sell as well as they'd like, I don't think they will. Because I think Sony fans will buy these for $70. But how many games have gotten tested out at $70? Demon's Souls
titles.
I don't really count those. I guess
I feel like Demon's Souls.
Yeah.
Demon's Souls sell really well. I feel like it did.
It did, yeah, but it was like the premier PS5 exclusive launch.
Yeah, there wasn't a
other
lot of
launch
other
games you
options for
had.
people to buy close to
and
launch.
people would pick that up
Yeah.
just to see the power of the system. That was the one game to play if you were like,
Mhm.
hey, this game looks gorgeous. This is why I have a PS5.
Yeah. Which I still want to. I would like to try Demon Souls at some point, but not for $70. No
Yeah.
way. And we got Neo, the 1 and 2 collection coming out on PS5 is going to be 70, but that is 2 games with all the DLC. So I think that one I'm a little more okay with, except those games are on sale all the time.
Like $10.
Yeah. And I think 1 was already a PS Plus game. I think I have it through that.
Yeah, I have one on PS Plus.
There haven't been that many. Destruction All Stars clearly did not pre-order well because they pushed it. They pushed it really close to the launch to be a free PS Plus thing. So I'm curious to see if the $70 thing sticks.
Yeah. They could definitely compare it to, like, take the first year of exclusives if they do make all the PS5 exclusives $70 and compare it to how games performed on PS4. And if there's a significant disparity there, then maybe they go back on that. But then it's like, if they go back on that, I don't think like 2K and all those people are going to do it. They're probably still priced. They're in. Like, they got all the people in with the sports titles. I feel like even if Sony goes back on that, they would still be gung-ho about it anyways.
Oh, is MLB The Show 70 on next gen?
I think it is.
I don't know. Oof.
I think it is.
I don't know.
Can check on that. But
because if it was 60, I might pick up a new MLB The Show for my PS5. But at 70, I'm not going to.
Let's see, 21. I'll check it.
Okay, cool.
The next piece.
Yeah, we just talked about Crash 4 for a bit. There was actually news about Crash 4 this week because it's coming to Switch, PS5, and Xbox Series X on March 12th. And it's interesting. The PS5 and Xbox Series X versions are going to be $60, but the Switch version was currently pre-ordering for $40 at places, which is the same price it's going to be that it is on PC. So I think that's pretty interesting.
Well, it is interesting, and one of the things I noticed for a difference in terms of the Switch port is that they didn't necessarily downgrade the graphics like they would have had to since the Switch doesn't run as well. They kind of stylized it a little bit. It looks pretty different compared to the PlayStation and Xbox versions. It doesn't look bad. They avoided a grosser downgrade and just chose to adjust the style enough to where it runs better, but still has like a unique feel to it. So I think that was a really good choice for them to do.
Yeah, it's cool.
I don't really know why it would have an effect on the price tag, especially $20. That seems pretty extreme, especially for a Switch game.
I would buy it if it was $40, and now it's coming out new on Switches for $40.
I feel like if I were to pick it up, Switch seems like the clear choice right now.
Yeah, but now I'd want to play it on PS5 where it will run at 4K 60.
Very
much better performance.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely. But yeah, that's pretty interesting. But sorry for the pun. It's about time it's coming to Switch. Yeah, I think it's weird that it wasn't there at first. It was just on PS4 and Xbox One for a while, and I thought it was weird there was no Switch version at launch. So I'm glad it wasn't left behind when they announced the PS5 and Xbox Series X versions.
Yeah, they're giving the Switch owners it. Update on MLB The Show. If you get the last gen version, $60. If you get the current gen, it is $70. So
with, I assume, no upgrade plan?
I would doubt it. Like, I feel like that'd be pretty easy to just cheese that super hard. Well,
there you go. That's what Horizon's going to look like. That's our answer. Horizon will be 60 and 70 split across because it's a Sony published game. So, interesting. No upgrade plan, really. Yeah, sports titles that are going to be $5 in a year are not worth $70. It's just, I just can't justify that. Yeah. Which is a shame because I would love a new shiny MLB game on my PlayStation 5, but I just can't justify that. I have a weird relationship with that series because then it's like when it's cheap enough that I am ready to buy it, the new one's coming out soon, and I'm like, oh well, any friends I have that are going to play this will be moving on in 2 months, and it's just that's why I've only bought one, and I bought it because it had Ken Griffey Jr. on it.
And that's how they get you with all these sports games. They know that by the time they're going to be dirt cheap, people are just going to be getting ready for the next one. And it just keeps on printing money. Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah, let's move on from that, though. Tales from the Borderlands is coming back this
Oh,
month, really soon. Have you played this one, Zach?
absolutely. It's my second favorite Telltale game. I love this one a lot. It's very unique, even for the Borderlands series. It takes place between Borderlands 2 and 3. It's got a couple characters that do appear in 3, but for the most part, it's a unique cast of characters with some pretty hard-hitting voice actors. Troy Baker, Laura Bailey, voicing the main characters. Super, super funny, super good game. Excited it's coming back, ever since Telltale shut down and slowly started to resurge. A lot of these IPs that went back to their original owners or
Because it was
whatever have been
Gearbox that announced this, that it was
yeah.
coming back.
Oh, Gearbox that got the Borderlands back. Got Tales from the Borderlands rather. Yeah, we hadn't really heard anything about it, so this is really good, especially since this is one of the better ones. Very excited to see it coming back.
Yeah, it is coming.
Yeah,
back
I think
soon.
it's good too. Yeah, I don't really have anything to add.
Are there other
I knew
ones?
Zach would be excited about it.
Are there other ones that
Yeah,
we're still
absolutely.
missing now? That are the other ones that got pulled.
I know the Walking Dead's went back to Skybound.
Right, that one
were
I
still
feel like
available.
that was the biggest one that
Wolf
needed to
Among
be
Us
saved first. But
I know the Wolf Among Us 2 is in development from Telltale currently. I think they still have the IP for that, so the Wolf Among Us 1 should still
it's
be available.
The Wolf Among Us 2 is canceled, right?
They're bringing it back. It's still going.
is the same people.
They re-announced it. Yeah, it got canceled after Telltale went down,
Okay.
but when it started research, that was their first announcement other than Batman something or other. So it's currently being
Batman.
developed.
Okay.
Batman the Telltale series, which I don't know if it's available. I assume the Batman IP is
available.
really
It's on Switch.
floaty.
Yeah, you
Okay,
can still
perfect.
get Batman Telltale.
I don't know who's in charge of the Batman IP. I think it's still Telltale.
WB?
It was on their Twitter cover. I played the first episode.
Okay.
It was good. It just focused really heavily on Bruce Wayne, which I thought was an interesting take.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I played both seasons of it.
For some reason, I
really
never
like it.
continued on with the series. So
Yeah.
excited to see this stuff because those are some good games that should not be lost to time.
Yeah, for sure. So good to see that is coming back. Something that could be going away, Anthem. So EA
It's like it already left.
Whether or not to pull the plug on Anthem. Anthem Next is what's supposed to be the coming up thing for Anthem. And depending on how the project is going, EA is going to decide to pull the plug or keep trying to grow this thing. I feel like no one would care if they just pulled the plug. I don't think anyone would mind.
Yeah, no one's talking about it. Like that's an uphill battle. One, to redevelop that game, put in all the resources to try and make it the game that people wanted. And it seems like that there has to be a lot of work going into that because there was no content when the game first came out. And then two, you have to get people re-excited in it. And man, I don't know if you can do that with Anthem.
Yeah, I think it's too long gone. Like there are some games like No Man's Sky historically notoriously brought people back with its big update. I feel like fewer people are playing Anthem than were playing No Man's Sky at its lowest point.
And I also feel like No Man's Sky, it helped that it was different than a lot of other titles. Like the things people wanted from No Man's Sky, there's not too many other games that can provide that to you. So it was almost like they kept it in the back of their minds for if it came back and if it was good, then they would hop back in and get their space exploration game. But if you want a looter shooter like Anthem is, there is a million other options. Tons of other options. You got The Division, you've got all the Borderlands games, just to name a few. Destiny's in there. I just can't see people coming back to Anthem after getting burned on it once and
even
having
Avengers
so many
is
other
kind
options.
of in that same genre now.
Yeah, I mean that game,
Yeah.
not great either.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Don't play Avengers.
when it's in a much more crowded field than No Man's Sky was in terms of what type of a game it is, I think that makes it even harder to bring this thing back and to get people excited about it again.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I think I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled the plug. I think that BioWare kind of just needs to leave the last 7 years behind and just kind of move on to new stuff. Andromeda was a flop. Anthem was a flop. You've got the Mass Effect trilogies coming out, and people are really receptive to that so far. And you've got new Dragon Age and new Mass Effect in the works. I think no one would mind if you put more resources towards those projects. Maybe inch them a little closer, up their quality a bit, rather than continuing to try to revive Anthem.
Yeah, I feel like that'd be the smarter option for them to to try and make sure that the next Mass Effect and Dragon Age hit, as compared to trying to take some of the resources from those games away to work on Anthem and try to bring that one back. I think it'd be a smarter move to just focus on their already established IPs.
Yeah.
Rip Anthem.
Yeah, cool. Rip Anthem.
Oh my God.
Rip Anthem and Rip E3. Our last story, E3 in 2021 is happening as a digital event. It's coming back. They said they were going to do that in 2020 and they just didn't.
Yeah.
They probably didn't have time to throw it together that quickly. But the ESA says we can confirm we're transforming the E3 experience for 2021 and will soon share exact details on how we're bringing the global video game community together. So it's looking like there was a report from VGC which says that the E3 2021 pitch documents have 3 days of live streamed coverage from June 15th to June 17th, multiple 2-hour keynote sessions from game partners, an awards show, a preview night, and smaller streams from game publishers, influencers, and media partners. They also want partner companies to remotely stream playable game demos to the media across thousands of scheduled meetings.
Seems like a lot.
Yeah, that's basically an E3 right there.
Yeah, and here's the big kicker, I think. Becoming a part of E3 is also very expensive, and one video game company indicated that it would rather run its own digital event instead of, quote, paying the 6-figure sums required to join E3 2021's schedule.
Gross.
That's the thing, right? That was what the concern was coming up to and after E3's what we assumed to be demise, was that you've already got a couple of companies doing their own things, Nintendo most famously doing their own directs, and then once E3 was off the table for a year, then you had Microsoft and Sony figuring out how they were going to go about it. And now,
if you remember, Sony pulled out of E3 before the pandemic hit. They said we're not going.
Yeah,
and they didn't go the year before that. So yeah,
they've been out of it for a little while too. Yeah, now that you've got companies that know how to get to their audiences using their own in-house ways of getting the information out with their own video production, it's almost like you don't really need E3 anymore. You can have the time all to yourself. Nintendo's been doing that for a while. Sony got into it more recently, and Xbox could do it too. And if you lose all three, if you don't have Nintendo, Sony, or Microsoft there, no one's going to care. If you have EA and EA.
Just
Ubisoft, EA. I don't know. People just aren't going to care. You got to have at least some of the one or two of the three.
Still kind of did its own thing. It did on the show floor, EA wasn't really there. They had their own thing going on. So, E3 was dying before the pandemic, and the pandemic killed it. E3 2019, I didn't go that year, but from what I heard from some of my friends who did go, it was just a ghost town. There was just nothing there. They had all these tents set up of like people trying to sell energy drinks and things like that were just like. And then do you guys remember the memo that we read on this show in 2020 when E3 was still going to be a thing about like capitalizing on FOMO and all this nonsense that just is like, what are you doing?
Wasn't there advertising and queue lines and like
like influencers, and it was going to be a mess. And E3 made a lot of sense before streaming and the internet became what it is now. And people thought Nintendo, it was a suicide mission when they decided to pull out from having a press conference and do the digital event. But they were years ahead of the curve because that's what everyone does now. And it makes way more sense from a company standpoint. Why would I pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to compete against all the other top companies who have great games too? Why would I not
to only have a piece of the spotlight?
Yeah.
You can have your own show where you're 100% of the focus. It's way cheaper, and you're guaranteed every person there is likely a fan of your company or product.
Mm-hmm. And they'll hear about it elsewhere. If they're not a fan, they'll see it on Twitter. They'll see it on a website. However people get their video game news updates, it makes so much more sense to say, we'll put on our own event on our own free YouTube channel in May instead of being a part of this 4-day insane stretch where a lot of games fall through the cracks. And it's not just the big companies that are doing this anymore either. It's like Capcom, yeah, they're not one of the big three. They're still a big game company, but they're like, hey, here's this Resident Evil event. 40 minutes of Resident Evil news. That's a Nintendo Direct. Every company does Nintendo Directs now, and there's just no place for E3 anymore.
Yeah, I don't see them continuing here. I mean, they're going to make an effort, I'm sure. They're not going to go down without a fight. I'm sure they're going to try and piece something together this year. And
E3's been around for a long time. It's a big staple in the gaming community. I can't see it easing. I can see its way easing itself away, but I don't see it just disappearing. But I think it might try and transition to something else, maybe, but I don't know. It's
limited
up in the
options, really limited options for what they can transform it into. Because if you don't have
why not something like PAX?
Yeah, they could do that. You already have PAX.
E3 East, E3 West.
Yeah. It's just E3 is so built on being the event where announcements happen, and so it loses its identity completely if that's no longer the main stage for these big announcements, and it's not anymore. Jeff Keighley's doing his Summer Games Fest thing again. Like, you're going to see more there. You're going to see companies do their own thing, and that's going to become the norm even in a non-pandemic year when people can go to events.
And you mentioned
PAX and Gamescom succeed because they're more fan-focused than E3. Go ahead, Kev.
And you mentioned Jeff Keighley and the fact that E3 is going to try and do an award show. You've already got the Game Awards too. Like they're hopping in way too late on this stuff. Most of these avenues have already been taken up by somebody else, and like PAX and all these other ones. If you have the fan-focused conventions, then they can work in tandem with a bunch of other conventions. But I feel like with announcements and with award shows, if you have one big award show and you have all of these other companies doing their own announcements, I don't see the benefit to having E3 do any of that stuff because they're just going to get overshadowed every time.
Yeah. Well, if I had to guess, I think the E3 awards show is like a best of E3. Like, here's the best trailer, here's the best gameplay from the week of E3. If I had to guess, that's what I thought. That's what I think they would do.
Yeah.
It'd be
still
weird.
Be pretty lame, though.
Oh, it would be. I agree. But I don't think it's trying to compete with the Game Awards. Like, all right, best of 2020. It's June 15th, 2021. Let's look back on The Last of Us Part 2 in Hades again. It's like, yeah, we're months beyond
right in the
that.
middle of the year. But who cares? Especially if you've got all these companies pulling out. Who cares what the best of E3 2021 is if like two companies are there showing their games off? There's limited options for what the best announcement was.
I think a bigger issue here, so that six-figure thing is what a developer said. Who is that for? You look at companies that are big enough that have a base that can run their own events. Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, and then developers like Capcom who do the Resident Evil thing, they'd be the only companies that have six-figure digit money lying around to get in this show. Indie developers do not have that money to be a part of this E3 thing. And there's no middle ground. Like, you got the guys who can afford it but have their own fan bases and their own voice on Twitter, on YouTube, wherever, that don't need this. And then you have the smaller developers that would have no business paying that amount of money to get their game shown at E3. So I don't know who falls in. I don't know who they think is going to show up.
Yeah, they've priced themselves out of both markets. I think it's just because that's what they've been built on for years. And now that the market has shifted, they haven't shifted with it.
Yeah. Yeah, so goodbye, E3. I think in 2 months, I'll make a prediction right here. In April, we'll be reading a news story that says E3 digital event canceled.
Canceled.
Yeah.
If they can't get anyone to show up for
no one pays fee.
Yeah, who is going to do it? Like, nobody.
I don't know. CD Projekt Red? Cyberpunk 2077.
the next current gen versions is all they have. At E3.
Would EA do it and be like, okay, now it's the EA show, E3?
Oh, that'd be really sad.
Yeah.
Then no one would
Bethesda's
care.
a part of Microsoft. They'll just Bethesda will be a part of whatever Microsoft decides to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Devolver can just publish their weird things on YouTube like they always do. Like no one needs E3 anymore, and it's sad. I loved E3 when I was a kid. Just watching it a week straight, I would always watch like IGN's coverage of it and just immerse myself. It was always when the school year was ending. The two like coincided every year, and it was just a great kickoff to the summer. And then the years I went were a lot of fun to go to, and they were vibrant and they were really thrilling events. I'm kind of glad I didn't go in 2019 because it sounds like it just kind of left a sour taste in everyone's mouth. But yeah, like Smash Brothers,
speaking of that, Kevin and I never got a chance to go, right, Kevin? We've never been to an E3.
No, have not.
We missed those golden years. Now we don't get those experiences. That'll never happen again. Yeah. Probably. I almost said hopefully, like I hate E3. I don't hate E3. I just don't see it happening in the future.
To be perfectly honest, with what they were trying to do with their current iteration, I would hate E3 if they were trying to do this FOMO stuff and advertising in queue lines and all this influencer stuff. I would honestly hate E3.
What does this FOMO stuff even mean? Let's make our worst predictions for what that would have looked like. I think we talked about like having these like higher group of people like screaming and cheering over in a corner. Everyone's like, "Oh man, I'm stuck in this line to play Madden." What's going on over there?
I don't know. You could have it be like, oh, there's certain things you can only get here to try and get people to come to the show next year as a fear of missing out thing.
The biggest, definitely having E3 exclusives is the biggest way they could do the fear of missing out. Is you have to literally be at E3 to get this exclusive pin for Monster Hunter. I don't know.
Or like a Fortnite had that one time.
Or maybe
Fortnite
if they moved it
exactly
to like an all digital thing, they'd have like tier levels that you would pay in to get access to certain demos or things, and you'd have to have the higher tier access to get the bigger games or something. And it's like, oh, I'm only a tier 3. I can't demo the new Resident Evil or something like that. I could see them trying to do that if they went more into the digital space. There's a lot of disgusting avenues they could have gone with that.
And it wasn't
like
FOMO,
nip it in the bud.
Yeah. Nintendo's booth had some really cool stuff one of the years I was there, where you had to go and play these 6 different games, and after you were done playing, you'd get a stamp on your punch card, and then after that, you would get you could go over to the Cap, what's it called, the Cap Corner? Is that the store in Mario Odyssey? I can't remember the name right now. But the Crazy Cap, something like that. You'd go there and you got a Cappy visor, and you had to play 6 games. It was like Mario Tennis Aces, stuff like that, and you would go over and then you would get it, and it was really cool. That's not FOMO. That's like a fun activity to spice up standing in line for hours to play the games that you want to do anyways, because that's why you're there.
As long as you can actually play all the games at the time too. It's like the same thing that we were talking about with Super Nintendo World, of like going around to the park and doing all these little activities where it's like, oh, that seems like a really cool idea. How in the world is that going to work with a bunch of people here just waiting in line for all this stuff? I could see them trying to do that too, where the lines are really big and you're just like, oh, you got to do all these things to get this prize, and it's almost like unattainable or something like that. Yeah,
I could see that too. Yeah, but E3, we'll have to find out what happens. But Zach, should we get into what we're playing?
Yes, now that we're done with the news, we have not been playing a whole lot this week. Well, I haven't. It's pretty much a lot of the same. I think Kevin's the same. We talked about Super Mario World, 3D World.
Super Mario World. Shout out to Super Mario World.
No, Super Mario World. Not 3D, it's whatever. Yes, we talked about that a lot at the top of the show. That we got a chance to play that before. Me, not so much.
You'll get into it.
So we gave our thoughts on that. Other than that, Kevin, just more Spiritfarer, I assume. You beat it yet?
Well, also played some Stardew Valley. Nothing too crazy there yet.
Gotcha.
Although, actually, forgot to put this in. The update 1.5 is out on consoles now. So
that's awesome.
That is out there.
We were literally talking about that 2 days ago.
Yeah, we were just like, oh, yeah. And I was looking it up when we were talking about it, and there were articles from a couple weeks ago. We're like, oh, it'll be here sometime in January, February of 2021. So it's like, this is coming out soon. But as of now, on all 3 platforms, Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox, the 1.5 update is out. So
awesome.
If you've been waiting for that, hop on in. It's all there. So I've been playing more of that, but I still haven't gotten far enough to get a bunch of the new content. It's still just the remixed items and things in the community center, which is still like super novel of hopping into the community center and just seeing a bundle that I haven't seen before. I'm just like, oh, I got to collect this stuff this time. Like I really didn't think it would be that big of a deal, but I think it is for people who have played Stardew Valley for hundreds of hours.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Does it just shift where the bundles are location wise, or does it actually add or change
New
items
bundles
that haven't been in previous bundles?
Yeah. So for example, so the main ones are still there. Like you've got all of the crops bundles and you have the foraging bundles. I don't think those really change. Those are pretty basic. But like a lot of the other ones, like there was one that was just collect 500 sap. There was a sap bundle. So stuff like that, it has changed.
Okay.
Complete bundles completely. Things that you didn't think you needed before, you do need now. Like one of the ones that we have now is to get 10 eggs, 10 milk, and then one other animal item. So it's completely different bundles themselves. So
Okay.
it changes up how you play for sure. And I've been hearing from friends who have played this game since 1.5 update came out. They're on year 4 and like, yeah, there's a bunch of new stuff. So I'm looking forward to getting further into that.
So have you been playing alone or with friends?
With friends, yeah. So timing
Plays
is always an
Stardew Valley
issue.
alone.
Where I did when it first came out, and more recently on my Switch. But yeah, we're still, I think, like day 10 of summer, so it's still pretty early on. But soon we'll get into the new content. I'm really looking forward to that. Other than Stardew, just Spiritfarer. There was one moment that was kind of weird. So there are certain moments where you have to upgrade your ship in order to unlock more parts of the map. Like there's rocks that you have to go through, and you have to like upgrade the hull of your ship, and they'll have different items for you to collect. And usually they're like event items. So one of the characters will be able to allow you to do an event to get like lightning in a bottle, or all these different like events to get these items. And one of the ones I had no idea how to get. I couldn't find it anywhere on the map. I was just like scouring around like, how do I get this item? And I found out, I looked it up because I was like, I've just wasted too much time. You have to do a certain activity and you'll randomly get an item to allow you to get one of the passengers, who will then allow you to get this item. With all the other ones, you would get these characters by going to the different islands, and they would be there, you do something for them, and then they join you on your ship and do all that. But it was just really weird, a really weird decision that one of the items that locks progression of the map is based on a character that if you don't do the activity, the specific one to get the item, you may just not get it, and you'll just be sailing around. And they're like, how do I get this item? I was racking my brain. I was like, where do I get this? So I looked that up.
So is it a missable opportunity, or can you always go back and get this?
You can go back and get it.
Do this activity?
Okay, if it was missable, then you would just be locked and you wouldn't be able to do anything. It's not missable. Luckily, it was apparently a random drop to get this item, and I got it first try. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, that could have happened at any time to get this item, to get that drop. So that was a little bit annoying. But once I did that, it got really good again, because then I had a bunch of new stuff coming in, a bunch of new quests. Once you have the map opened up, it really picks back up again as you're getting all these new items to be able to build all the different buildings and finish the quests for all these different people. There was another moment that came up. I didn't cry at this one, but the way things kind of unfolded with one character caught me really off guard with their final moments on the ship, which was really interesting. And now I've just got a bunch of people that are ready to leave, and I'm like, no, you can't leave yet. I'm holding you on. I'm holding you on to the ship for now. I'll get to you later. I want to have you on here as I'm still sailing around. I feel like I have unlocked the ability to go to every area on the map, and I think that I have all of the characters now unlocked. So I feel like I'm reaching nearer to the end. So I'm excited to see how the last stories for all these different characters play out. I also feel like, as a tip, Zach, whenever you get around to playing this, make sure you talk to your passengers as much as you can. Because I feel like there's a lot of story that you can just flat out miss completely.
Interesting.
Like,
what if I want to beeline the game, don't talk to anybody? Can I do it? Is it possible?
You can do it, but you'll probably have zero attachment to the characters because you don't know their life.
Cool.
Like there was a
If I
moment,
have zero attachment, then I'm not going to cry. We're good.
Then you won't get the true effect of Spiritfarer. There was one moment where one of the characters was like, hey, I'm ready to go to the spirit door. And then I talked to them right after that, and then they went into this like whole thing about their backstory and their like upbringing and stuff. But if I brought them to the door and then just sent them off, I wouldn't have seen any of that.
Weird.
So I would highly recommend
So just
talking to
them, given the opportunity,
talking to the villagers, giving
before
them
they're
the food
gone for good.
Yeah, and when they tell you
give them food, spirits eat.
They do. Yeah, you have to feed them to keep them happy.
Okay,
you have to cook. But like. Especially when they tell you, I'm ready to go to the spirit door, make sure you talk to them a few more times and see if they've got some more things to say before you send them off. It's still really good, still really pretty. Music's great, and I think I'll have it done by next week and have final thoughts on that. It is a really good time.
Good.
Yeah.
Definitely looking forward to hearing those final thoughts. I know you've been enjoying it so far. It's definitely on my radar. I know Logan also interested, I assume.
Like in theory, yes, but in reality, probably not.
Too many other games to play.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's on my radar, which is good enough. Logan, what have you gotten into this week? I think it's a few things, some stuff with me, some stuff alone.
Yeah, I've been kind of weird. I don't know. I'm in that point where I just want to play like Smash Bros, Mario Kart games that just Fall Guys games are just endless like that. But I still have been chipping away at a few other things. Hitman, I've been playing more of. I still have not finished the 3rd level.
Gotten any closer?
I've been still messing around in the first 2 because the 3rd one is really hard. I could just skip it. You don't need to finish every level like to move on to the next one. So I honestly might just not finish it. It's too rough for me. But it's still a good time. Divinity Original Sin 2. I think we're good at that game now, Zach. I think that we have.
It feels like we're where we need to be, which is a good feeling because we were feeling like we were way behind where we needed to be, and we finally got to the end of Act 1, the final boss. It was a very challenging fight, but it felt like it
was like an hour long.
It was an hour-long fight.
Oh my god!
It was a difficult fight, but at a certain point in the fight, I was like, okay, we're actually able to do this. If we try really hard, we can do it. Because in the earlier, some of the fights were like, there's a 0% chance we could win this fight. We had that so often. Like, every time we entered a fight, we're like, it's impossible. We don't really get that anymore. We can usually power through things. So it's good that we finally got to where we're feeling comfortable.
And all you had to do
beginning of that game,
all you had to do was take the bucket off.
Literally, it was the one thing holding us back was Logan's bucket hat. That's not true.
Yeah, for sure.
Logan was holding us back, but he finally fixed his character. It's fine. It was his fault.
Both of them
it's not
had
important.
a bucket. But it was cool because I felt like when I save, I see how much time actually we saved because it only keeps track of like how much progress you actually made. Like if you play for 5 minutes and then quick load, rewind that 5 minutes, that 5 minutes doesn't track on your save tracker. So I would like monitor the Discord call Zach and I were on. We played for like 2 hours and then I saved and it only saved an hour and 5 minutes of progress. And we're like, oh my gosh,
half
we
the
had
time.
To undo. Yeah, half of it.
Yep.
But most recently we played for like 2.5 hours and we saved like 2 hours and 15 minutes of it. So like we are having to rewind a lot less. I think we're figuring out the systems a lot more. And yeah, I'm really enjoying.
Which is a really in-depth and really fun and intricate system. Like I like it a lot. It's very tabletop RPG. There's a lot of different routes you can take, a lot of different character builds. You can really feel out what works for you, and it doesn't lock you into anything because later in the game you're able to just readjust your whole play style, which is very good. I like it a lot. And, you know, if you're willing to steal from people, there's never a shortage of resurrection scrolls if you die. So,
yeah. So it's cool. That last fight was cool because this giant worm rolled in and our enemies started fighting the worm so we could focus on the enemies. And yeah, it was a battle between 3 different entities. It was cool. But yeah, we're enjoying that one a lot. I think that we have played it for like 16 hours now, and we have like 10.5 hours of saved progress. So
5 hours just lost to time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's how it is, man. Yeah. Trial and error.
We'll keep chipping away at that. And then I also, with Kevin, tried out Scott Pilgrim, and oh boy, that did not go well, did it, Kev?
No. So I've been having issues with my internet in the past of NAT types. I remember that was an issue I had to deal with like back in like the Wii or 360 days too, back at my parents' house. But basically, I have a more restrictive NAT type. So right off the bat, the game wouldn't even let me host a game, which is interesting because other games will allow me to do that. Like we hopped on Stardew. There was a little bit of lag on there at one point, but like I can host it, and for the most part, it runs pretty okay. But one, wouldn't let me host whatsoever. Two, when Logan hosted, it instantly popped up a message to me when I joined in that was like connection unstable, things may not go well, and then the one time that it played, my input lag was ridiculous. It was like a couple seconds, 1 to 2 seconds at least.
Which is awful for a brawler.
Between button presses and when things would actually happen. And then the other time it just crashed. Yeah. Did not go well.
No. So hopefully we can get that ironed out for Mario, because you gotta play that online. And I want to play Scott Pilgrim with you too still. We gotta figure that out. So.
Yeah.
But apparently Scott Pilgrim's online is pretty bad. I was doing some research, and on all platforms, people were struggling with the online multiplayer.
Because was that a new feature for this version?
No, apparently it was also bad in the old one. Oh, I read. Yeah, I read that it was bad in the old one, and they didn't go and fix it. So hopefully we can talk more about that sometime soon. Although I think our multiplayer times are going to be Mario going forward for a while, but we'll play Scott Pilgrim together at some point. And then last week I picked Mega Man as a franchise I wanted to get into, and I have finished Mega Man 2. The Legacy Collection was on sale on Switch. I got it for $10, which includes the NES Mega Mans, which is 1 through 6. I have played 1 before, but it is so brutal. I didn't want to go back to that. So I started with 2, which people think is the best one, and I enjoyed it a lot. I had a good time with it. There's some definite bogus, which is to be expected from a 1980s NES game. But it was a good time. I like all the power-ups you get. Some are way more OP than others, like the metal one where you throw like blades and you can throw them in 4 directions. There's no reason to use anything else once you unlock that power. It's so OP, but the music's really good. A lot of the bosses are cool. The final levels, after you defeat the 8 robot masters, you go to Dr. Wily's castle, and there's like 3 more levels there. They're really, really good, and the music is amazing. So yeah, I overall enjoyed it a lot. I got more used to the weighty platforming I think I was complaining about with Mega Man last week, and I started 3, which like is kind of the hipster pick for the best one. That people think 3 is better than 2. So far, I don't think it is. I think the game feels rushed. I'm like, some of these levels don't feel as detailed as the other one. So I looked it up, and the game was rushed. So
they pumped those things out all the time.
They
there was
did.
So many, both on the NES, and then when they got to like Mega Man X, they were still pumping those games out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the first thing that Logan mentioned when he started talking to me about the Mega Man, he was like, "There's 50 of these games." I was like, "Wow, all right."
Yeah, how many?
There are so many.
The more recent one that just came out, was that 11?
That was 11.
So they had 10 on the NES, or were there 2 other
here's a rundown of the history. Mega Man 1 through 6 are on the NES, and 1 is brutally hard, and 2 and 3 are really good, and 4 and 5 are a little stale, and 6 mixes it up a bit and is apparently also very good.
Okay.
And then there's Mega Man 1. It gets wild, folks. Okay. Mega Man 1 through 5, Roman numerals on the Game Boy. Mega Man 1 takes a handful of bosses from 1 and 2 on the NES and remakes them for a handheld. Mega Man 2 takes bosses from 2 and 3, 3 from 3 and 4, 4 from 4 and 5, and then 5 is a completely original game on the Game Boy. It's random, but then Mega Man 7 is a Super Nintendo game, Mega Man 8 is a PlayStation game, Mega Man 9 and 10 are WiiWare games that are made in the style of the NES ones, and then Mega Man 11 is the new 3D style one. And then there's like 8 Mega Man X's. There's 4 Mega Man ZX's, which stars Zero, who's introduced in Mega Man X. And then there's the Battle Network games, which are RPG strategy games. There's a really bad 3D game on the... I don't know what system it's on. The N64? Something. There's Mega Man Soccer.
There was like a Legends or something?
Yep, it's Legends.
But people really like that game, and they really want the sequel. And I heard that got like canceled a couple of years back.
Yeah. So there's a ton here, and I think I'm gonna play Mega Man X. It's on Switch Online, So I'm probably gonna dive in there and see which I prefer between the regular and the X, and then go from there.
How many Mega Mans can you play on current gen?
Oh, tons.
Well,
You
what
can
they've
play
got like
all
both of the
11.
legacy collections.
There's
Mhm.
there's 5 legacy collections on modern consoles. Legacy Collection 1 and 2, X
Yep.
Legacy Collection 1 and 2, and then ZX Legacy Collection. So you can play every mainline Mega Man game. There's apparently one of the best Mega Man games is a PSP remake of the original, which also adds a level builder that is
Oh.
not on current consoles.
Of course not. Yeah, the best one. You got to leave
Oh, well.
that.
But all of the original versions, you can play every one on Switch and PlayStation and Xbox, which is pretty
Yeah, I mean, going back to these older franchises, ease of access and playing them, especially on your newest console, is one of the biggest draws for me. Like when I decided to play the Castlevanias, I'm like, I could play a lot of these on my PS4, some of them on my Switch. You know, there's plenty of ease of access diving into the series this late into the game. So that's definitely something that's keeping these franchises alive is these virtual consoles. And I think that they're just they need to do a lot more focusing on these virtual consoles because it's the Switch console is not like the Wii U. The Wii U had some amazing Earthbound, you know.
The Wii U
Earthbound to
Virtual
Switch,
Console is
right, guys?
incredible. Yes,
I think
please
just
It is.
more companies need to do like collections and things. Like Sony was really good about that on like the PS3, where all those collections for God of War, Ratchet and Clank, and all these. I think Nintendo could do that with like they could have done that with Pikmin. Put the first 2 on there and then do the re-release of 3. Metroid, of course, they've already got that collection on Wii. Bring that over. I think that they could do a lot with like collection things. They would sell really well too.
The Wii U is actually an incredible Metroid console. It has the original. It has both GBA games. It has the Prime trilogy that you can download.
Yeah, man.
It has almost everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think they could do a
The
lot
Wii U's
for these
Virtual
series.
Console is so good.
is.
So good.
I mean, with all the the re-releases of Wii U games, that's basically all it's got left. I feel like for 99% of the people that own it, that is the only reason it would ever still be plugged in is their library of virtual console games.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I've been playing.
Zach, what have you been up to?
Yep, and well, not a lot. Logan did mention that we played the handful of Divinity. That was definitely a good time. We're gonna continue that on, leading into Monster Hunter Rise, then shelf it for a while, probably. Hopefully, go back to it at some point. But other than that, by myself, it's basically I'm not on pace for a good February, but I am still plowing through Final Fantasy IX. Final Fantasy IX, I'm not as far into it as I would like. February has been taken up by rewatching a bunch of TV shows, which is just eating up a lot of my free time.
Same.
But whenever I do get the urge to boot up my PlayStation, I'm usually playing Final Fantasy IX. Still loving it a lot. Just added a new member to the party. I like the various animal races in the world of Gaia, I guess. Are they all Gaia? I don't actually know what the world in Final Fantasy IX is called.
Dark Gaia.
But the world in Final Fantasy VII is Gaia. Yeah, absolutely. That is what I'm talking about. Not the world of Final Fantasy. But yes, Final Fantasy IX is chock full of very interesting looking characters because they have rat people and cat people and dog people. And it looks like Ni no Kuni 2. I mean,
that's good.
I liked all the character. The animal races can be done really, really good, or they can look really, really stupid. And I feel like I really like them in Ni no Kuni 2 specifically, even though I never finished that game. Probably finished that game. But I'm really liking the diversity of characters. Yeah. I'm loving the diversity of characters in Final Fantasy IX, especially with the party members. The party members all look so unique. They're all varied, wildly.
You got the little dude, right?
I know. Vivi.
Yeah.
Vivi is my favorite character. He's one of the starting members of your party. You start off with 3 people, the main character, Vivi, and Steiner, who's a really, really bulky, rusty knight from the kingdom that you start off in. So that's super cool, and every character that you add is super, super cool looking. And I know what they all look like because when you boot up the game, they're all just there on the character screen. They're like,
just like the entire party that you haven't seen yet?
Yeah, so you get a good look at the entire party as soon as you boot up the game.
No
all
surprises.
Right, I know exactly who's about to. Like, that character gets introduced,
You're
and
like,
I know,
yep.
you're gonna join the party pretty soon, probably. That happened very recently.
Nice.
So a little unfortunate, but it is what it is. They know that people likely aren't starting this game for the first time in 2021, but
story any good?
I haven't found that it detracts. I think the story is very interesting so far. It hasn't really delved into the deeper aspects, like the hidden character motivations. We know people's shallow reasons for doing things, especially with the party, but a lot of the characters introduced in terms of side characters like royalty in the differing kingdoms and the families of the characters in the party. I like it a lot. There's a lot of cool dynamics. So I'm definitely interested in seeing where it goes. The dialogue specifically, I know Logan complained about the dialogue in 7. I think 9 has way better dialogue. That is a hot take. People will probably get mad at you for it. I was also thinking about this, is that I don't think this game would lend well to a remake because the characters are so stylized that they don't need to look pristine like the characters in Final Fantasy VII, which are basically just
like
anime.
The Secret of Mana remake.
That would be terrible.
God,
that would be absolutely terrible.
Ugly.
I think if they did,
I'll go after.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, if they did decide to make some sort of remake of Final Fantasy IX, they wouldn't have to change a whole lot. I feel like they would just have to update the graphics, actually add areas to walk around in instead of the classic Final Fantasy picture backgrounds. I don't know. I feel like it wouldn't have to be anywhere nearly as extreme as the Final Fantasy VII remake with a convoluted plots. It doesn't have that. Well, I don't know if the plot's that convoluted. I haven't gotten that far. It probably gets pretty intense. But as it is right now, it's just a fun time to play.
It could probably lend itself well to like going over the localization again, cleaning things up, but maybe not doing a from the ground up thing like Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Something like that. And one complaint that I do have, not even related to the game specifically, but when I bought this game, I found out that I got a free Final Fantasy IX theme for my PlayStation 4, and then I applied it, and every time you play the PlayStation, it's just a very loud blast of Final Fantasy IX title music, and it's not a lot of themes play music in general, but this one's a very obtrusive kind of just Final Fantasy IX, and it kind of irritated me. So I had to switch off of it almost immediately. I like a nice quiet theme. That's not even a complaint to the game. I'm just like, make your themes quiet. They don't need to be very loud because I'm just in a menu.
The Final Fantasy VII Tifa one.
That one's very nice. I think I just went back to the recent anniversary theme. I don't remember what anniversary it was, but just a nice gold background with, some PlayStation logos from more famous franchises. But other than that, that's basically all I've been playing. Just enjoying Final Fantasy IX. Hopefully gonna have it done at some point before February. I've made a lot of heavy promises for gaming this year, and I'm just at a very slow pace.
Yeah, your February games that you picked. You also had Red Dead in there.
That is the ideal game to start.
The shortest month, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but it was the biggest month in terms of gaming in 2020. So honestly, it doesn't really matter. If you believe, you can make it happen. I didn't believe hard enough.
Zach is perfect at that, just creating time out of like ether.
The current plan is to play Final Fantasy in the first 90% of February, and then the last 10% of February play like 6 games.
Oh my god!
So it'll be
one of
fine.
Those being the 60 hours of Red Dead 2.
One of those being Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh my god!
Nice.
Logan, what was your aside from a little bit ago? Was Secret of Mana?
I just remember driving to GameStop with you guys, reading in the car about how people were hating the Secret of Mana remake when we were on our way to pick up the Secret of Mana remake. That's all.
It did not. We're not wrong, unfortunately.
Also, do you guys remember when Sonic named Light Gaia a Chip because he was obsessed with the ice cream cone that he got in Alpatos?
Yes, I love Chip.
Big spoilers on that for Unleashed.
Yeah, from the
Gaia.
Jeez.
Yeah. Oh, what does Chip call Sonic when he's a werehog? He calls him something stupid that I hate. I don't know. Doesn't matter.
I do not remember.
Mr. Scary Face or Mr.
Other Sonic.
No, it's not the other Sonic.
Yep, it's the other Sonic.
Anyways,
the other Sonic.
Go. I think that's how you know it's time to call it.
When you start talking about Light and Dark Gaia from Unleashed, it's other crap. It's when you know it's gone off the rails. All right, any final thoughts before we wrap this thing up?
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about Zelda news next week.
Okay, that's a prediction. There's nothing happening. He just thinks that Zelda news is coming because Nintendo's current big game will be coming out, and then leading up to the 35th anniversary of Zelda.
Is that what, starting next week or something?
It's on it's a week from Sunday. Yeah. February 21st.
So he thinks that there's going to be some sort of big Zelda news, which I do not believe at all. I think he's just making this crap up as he goes along.
Maybe.
Let's see. God, I'm just crossing my fingers that it's not another timed exclusive, but part of me is
So the Wild 2 is a timed exclusive.
No, I mean,
sorry to tell you.
The collection, just because they preface these other collections based on the anniversary, and that's why they're limited.
Princess.
I really have a feeling they're going to do that again with some sort of collection. Ugh.
Probably.
But hopefully that means that we get some of these other Zelda games on Switch.
Please. Yes,
hopefully.
Please.
Hopefully. Mm-hmm. Zach, anything from you?
I think I would I don't care what it is. I just want Skyward Sword in there because that's the one I played first. And now the first one I want to replay now that I've played a vast majority of them.
Going back, Skyward Sword. There were all those rumors from a while back about Skyward Sword coming to Switch. Now would be the time.
So I'm hoping for Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword. I know a lot of people just went Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, but if they just throw in that little, a little Skyward Sword in there, just for me, that's fine. It doesn't have to be for anybody else. Just want to replay it, and I don't want to have to bust out a Wii to do it.
That's fair.
Ideally not. All right, that is going to do it for us on this week's episode of Ode to Games. We're here on Fridays on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, other podcast streaming services that you use. Our website, odetogames.com. They're posted there as well. That's the audio version. You can find the video version of the podcast on our YouTube page, Ode to Games. So if you want to catch the video version of the podcast, that's up there every single week. You can find us on Twitter at Ode to Games, Twitch, Ode to Games as well. You can send an email to odegamescast@gmail.com. For Logan and Zach, I'm Kevin. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week.